Jim Doyle here. It is my great privilege to welcome you to Doyle On Demand, our multi-million-dollar virtual interactive training program. All the tools you need to get on the fast track to TV and digital sales success you'll find right here. Where you are now is called the main menu. From here, you can go anywhere in the system you wish. So if you're ready to get started, click the Training Center now to begin your journey. Or, if you prefer, have a look around and get familiar with what the system has to offer. Simply click on the Preview button to learn more about a panel. Once you're ready to dive in, I'll be waiting for you in the Training Center. Whether you're new to the TV and digital industry, a veteran looking to elevate your skills, or you're a leader who wants to get higher performance from your team, you're going to find the resources and training specifically designed to help make your goals become a reality. All right here on Doyle On Demand. You know, we're part of a great business, the power of TV and incredible digital tools that can make a difference for our clients. But our business is more challenging than ever. But if you dedicate yourself to getting better, you're going to find this career to be one of the most pleasurable and financially rewarding careers on the planet. And helping you get there is what Doyle On Demand is all about. Our partners, John Hannon, Tom Ray, Pat Norris, and I have packed Doyle On Demand with the best of time-proven strategies that work. Real-world stuff that will be here for you 24 hours a day. It's training on your timetable. And we'll be updating our content constantly so you can take immediate advantage of every sales and management opportunity. So what do you say? Are you ready to get started? If you're already registered, click on the Training Center button and see what's there for you. If you aren't registered, take a tour. We're so excited to show off the most powerful training program ever developed for the TV and digital business.
In this course of medical selling strategies, you'll learn the ins and outs that are necessary to be successful in maximizing your healthcare revenue. Before we continue to the next chapter of securing healthcare advertising dollars, I'd like to test your knowledge of the state of healthcare with a true or false question. Every doctor and every practice wants to increase their number of patients. True or false? Congratulations! Your answer was false, and you are correct. In fact, in one study, only about 20% of medical professionals ranked more patients as the top reason they would advertise.
You and your prospects have finally reached an agreement. And with an enthusiastic, let's do this, or maybe a more tepid, okay, you have the go-ahead to move forward. High five, right? You rush back to share the good news and ring the new business bell. Has it ever happened that months later, the campaign still hasn't started? We call that the wobble, when a client says yes, but doesn't move forward. What's the biggest reason a client will wobble? Is it A, our competition disrupts the process? B, the client needs to get ready internally? C, budget? Or D, the prospect isn't fully sold yet? You chose D, the prospect isn't fully sold. And you'd be correct. The biggest reason a client delays the start of their campaign is they aren't fully sold yet.
Hello, I'm John Hannon, the president of Jim Doyle Associates, and I am thrilled today to welcome you to a bonus in our series of video events produced exclusively for you, our Leaders Edge member, and your station guests. Before we get to the show, I have a question for you. Are you concerned about next year? A year without the Olympics, without political, although that might be good for some of us. It's another year of trying to balance tradigital budgets, a term we introduced at Jim Doyle Associates, which describes the combination of digital and traditional advertising. For many of you, next year will be a year of navigating new sales platforms like OTT or over the top, all in a year that advertisers are projected to keep an even tighter control on their marketing purse strings. In fact, right now, in a closed-door session that could be taking place maybe even steps away from where you're seated, there is a conversation that 2019 may be the most challenging year in the history of television advertising sales. That's why at Jim Doyle Associates, we feel the need to provide to you a deep dig into one of the largest advertising categories in our business, the automotive category. And who better to provide this deep dig into the world of cars than the industry's premier auto category marketing expert and Jim Doyle Associates Senior Vice President, Pat Norris. Before joining our company, Pat was the managing partner of the Norris Auto Group, a collection of 5 retail multi-brand automobile dealerships and 2 motorsports stores. He is a former Time Magazine Quality Dealer Award recipient that understands the hard decisions a business owner makes in advertising spending and the need to get quantifiable results on their investment. Pat's success was directly attributed to his ability to develop advertising strategies that cut through the advertising noise, resulting in consistent business and profit growth. So please, enjoy Pat Norris in today's Leaders Edge video event, our free gift to you to help you jumpstart your 2019 sales, courtesy of your friends at Jim Doyle Associates.
Hi, I'm Pat Norris, Senior Vice President for Jim Doyle Associates. I'm also known as the Jim Doyle Car Guy. My goal is to help you dominate the auto revenue category next year by finding more auto dollars in 2019 and to win back and regain auto dollars that may have been lost in 2018 with Take It to the Streets, actionable information you can deploy in your market today, regardless of size. So let's get started. I'm sure you're asking yourselves, who is this guy anyway, and what's he know about the automobile business? Well, let me give you just a brief background. 30 plus years in the retail automobile industry in Cleveland, Ohio, which is market number 19, and the power sports business. We had over 5 locations with multiple franchises. We did over $200 million a year in sales, and did a $2.1 million annual ad budget that I oversaw. I've also worked with many small businesses from the strategy and creative side, from market startups to those that were long established. So here's some pictures of the dealerships. And on the next slide, you'll see some of the franchise brands that we represented. First, let's take a look in the rearview mirror as to how auto sales shaped up in 2018. In 2018, U.S. new retail light vehicle sales will finish at 17.3 million units per the SAAR rate. SAAR is the seasonally adjusted automobile rate of sales. It makes it the 4th biggest year in automotive history. Now, those numbers are a little misleading. As per J.D. Powers, the key factor in the things that we impact retail sales were actually down 2%, while fleet sales were up 3%. Fleet sales, of course, are those units sold to national rental agencies, government, and local other commercial agencies as well, too. SUVs and trucks, incredibly, represented 70.4% of all retail units sold. That's 12 million units. That's the first time that's happened in over 100 years of automotive history. For your dealers, consumers spent $1.6 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars less in 2018 on automotive and automotive repair than they did in 2017. And I think a real key metric going forward is that the average transaction price in 2018 was $32,947, an all-time high as well, and that plays into consumer affordability going forward. Okay, now let's look in the windshield and see what 2019 could potentially hold for your automobile dealers. NADA, the National Auto Dealer Association, forecasts 13.6 million, key number here, retail new vehicle sales. That's going to be down again from 2018. Affordability is what will be the top of consumers' mind in 2019 regarding auto purchases and just general cost of living goods. The Feds raised interest rates again in December, as you know, and they're looking at potentially 3, maybe 4 interest rate hikes in 2019. Now, when the Feds hike even 0.5% of an interest rate, that takes out somewhere between 100 to 200,000 unit sales in the market. So it's significant every time they do raise the interest rates. And a quote from the president of UMC Automotive, Jeff Schuster, said that affordability may be the canary in the coal mine for the level of auto sales as we close out 2018 and begin to look at 2019. In conversations that I've had with over 100 auto dealers all over the country in the last 6 months, there really is a sense of pessimism out there for 2019. Again, it plays back into rising interest rates. We anticipate another hike before year end and 3 more again in 2019. New car average sale prices are projected to go up again to $34,126 in 2019 versus an all-time high in 2018 of $32,947. Incentive spending by manufacturers fell $494 on cars and remained relatively flat on SUVs and trucks. And banks are tightening credit, especially for those below 650 Beacon scores, which means those loans that were readily available in the last couple, 3-4 years are going to be tougher to get for those folks that have had a few challenges from a credit perspective. And of course, we all talk about the millennial effect. Lyft, Uber, new auto subscription plans, they're killing the golf business. Diamonds, napkins, certainly they have an impact on the automobile business in a large way. And frankly, they're impacted the enormous amount of off-lease vehicles that continue to come back into the market, peaking in 2019, will play on new auto sales as well. Well, clearly there's some tough times ahead for your auto dealers, but when times get tough, dealers look for different solutions. And this gives us an opportunity to open up new dialogues or change the dialogue we're having with our current dealers. But first, let's talk about some of the must-dos. One of my favorite quotes from Bruce Lee: "Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do." And as Don Beveridge, the famous motivational speaker, said at one time, it's not a deficiency of knowledge, it's a deficiency of execution. So here are some of the things that I'm strongly recommending you do before you go after those auto dollars. The first thing you need to do is really understand the basics of the automobile business. You don't have to know the intricacies or get deep in the weeds, but you really need to have a sense of what's going on in their world. You have a number of resources that you can pull information from. First of all, automotive news. You can go online to autonews.com and get a daily feed of information from the automobile business. Every auto dealer looks at Auto Dealer Monthly. Again, you can see the URL there. A digital dealer, same play for digital. The NIADA, which is the used car dealer magazine, also available online to get information from, and your state and local auto dealer associations are glad to provide you tons of information. So get those feeds, read them on a regular basis, and have a basic understanding of what's going on in your dealer's world and also specifically with their franchises. The other thing you need to know is who are the players in the dealership. First of all, the dealer. Ask yourselves, can your account executive really get in to see them? If you're a manager in the room, especially a general manager, vice president, clearly you can get an appointment with the dealer to go in and have a business conversation. Not just how's your golf game, but really get into the nuts and bolts of how their business is and what they anticipate looking forward. The general manager in the store does all the heavy lifting. He is the one or she is the one that executes what the dealer's budget and plans that have been set forward are. The sales manager, you really have to understand, are they clearly an influencer in the advertising decision process, or they just come off as big man on campus and really have little to no influence? Very often in my calls with dealers, we end up meeting a sales manager, and frankly it's because the account executive doesn't understand that in about 70% of the time, the sales manager has very little influence in advertising decisions. They just tend to relate that they do. Again, the big man on campus process. Also the BDC manager. BDC is the Business Development Center. It's where many dealers have all their internet leads funneled into, and in many cases the sales phone calls. Their goal is to basically create the appointment, drive the show to the dealership with an appointment, and then turn them over to the product specialist for sale. They can make or break your digital pitch. So please, if it's a digital approach, have them involved. And lastly, the agency, certainly a fact of life in the automobile business. But ask yourself, will they be the agency next month? Because we know the one thing that Mr. Doyle says is the goal of every ad agency is to be the ad agency next month, not necessarily the best interest of the customer. Okay. Let's get into some opportunities how we can win and regain auto dollars in 2019. First of all, there is a plethora of new vehicles being introduced here at the balance of 2018 and well through now 2019. I'm not going to go through all the models. You can see them on the screen at this point in time, but there is a number of new vehicles being introduced in the model years coming. Here's an opportunity for you to go in and talk to your auto dealers about driving test drive programs. Offer test drive incentives from $50 gas cards for coming in and taking a test drive. Maybe a dinner certificate or a dinner card that they can typically get for 50% from a local restaurateur. But drive opportunities to bring people in the dealership to test drive these new models. Those programs are easy to create, and many times dealers have additional co-op support in which to be able to utilize them. Now look, let's talk about auto dealer digital advertising. We know that from a station perspective, it's certainly not your most profitable platforms. Core business certainly is. But it's a fact of life in the auto world. They're constantly being told by their manufacturer, automotive news, auto dealer, all the industry gurus that it's digital, digital, digital. And we'll talk a little bit later about the domination combination of TV and digital. But as digital is a fact of life in the auto world, if you're going to have a meaningful conversation or to even open up a conversation with your auto dealer, you need to have a sense of how to best approach selling them and talking to them about digital advertising. So let's get into auto dealer digital proposal templates. So let's take a look at an example of a digital proposal for an auto dealer. The title slide says, specializing in local auto dealer digital advertising strategies to drive more leads to sales. The first thing I like to do is pose a question to the dealer about where they think their best leads come from, and I just referenced the several lead sources you see on camera. Third-party leads, manufacturer leads, sales calls, dealership website leads. And I'll say of all the internet leads that come to you, which are the best? And undoubtedly, every dealer says that the leads that are the best, the most qualified, come directly from their website. Why? Because they typically have a higher closing ratio, and they also have typically a higher gross profit because the consumer has said, I pick you. And combined with television to stimulate the market, the goal is to drive potential consumers directly in the dealer's digital footprint versus third-party sources. Let me share with you a brief clip from one of our auto seminars about auto dealers referencing specifically auto leads directly to their websites.
Absolutely, your own website produces the best quality lead without a doubt.
Clearly, a lead that comes from the dealer's website is a much stronger, much more qualified, relevant lead.
So then get into just a very brief but concise capabilities strategy showing some of the platforms that you offer. And then get into more specifically the details of those different platforms. And then present the package, a bronze, silver, and gold in this example. Bronze at $2,000, moving up to silver at $4,000, and of course gold you can see at $6,500, referencing the different platforms that each includes. Now, in the car business, most people pick the middle package, so make sure your most profitable digital platforms are included in your middle package. And then, of course, once the agreement's made, you want to certainly present them with a signature page to make sure everyone's on the same page as to what they bought. So again, knowing that auto dealer digital advertising is clearly a fact of life for them, you can't avoid it. Get to know what they do, what their platforms are, and then present your powerful platforms along with your core product in a menu form. All right, Let's talk about co-op advertising and how dealers use those dollars to offset their advertising expense. Interestingly, many manufacturers are moving away from advertising co-op dollars for their dealers to other incentives for them to earn money. Many are moving towards a dealer cash program that's based on a combination of the vehicles they buy from the manufacturer, the number of vehicles they sell, facility upgrades, and even their customer satisfaction scores. If they can meet those goals, there can be as much as $1,500 per car paid to the dealer by hitting those different incentive programs. And the manufacturers, of course, tell them that's why we're not paying co-op anymore, because we're giving you other ways, more whole ways in which to earn dollars. Interestingly enough, every year millions of auto dealer co-op funds go unclaimed. Okay, and you ask yourself, well, why? Just a couple reasons. Number one, they continually change their programs from the manufacturer's perspective, and many dealers aren't aware of what co-op can qualify and what can't qualify. The rules change constantly. Dealers do not understand the different platforms and how much percent they can apply to those different platforms from a digital perspective. Ford, for example, in 2019 is moving their dealers from a 50% spend on digital to a 75% spend on digital. And the dealer must spend the amount of money they get on co-op in the same quarter that they receive it. And frankly, when you talk to the dealer and the people involved in co-op submission, no one likes to go through the process. So if you help them with that co-op submission, it can help make you more sticky. Okay, let's get into how the math works for co-op advertising. Let's say a dealer's invoice price, the cost of the dealer is $40,000 for a car. Now, typically it's 2% in most markets. It could vary a little bit one way or another, but it's about 2%. So $800 for co-op advertising is baked into the cost of that car to the dealer. In theory, the consumer pays that if the dealer sells the vehicle for more than $40,000. Now, there is 1.5 of the 2% rebated back to the manufacturer, or the Tier 1 dollars, in this case $600. There is a half of the 2% sent back to the Tier 2 or local ad association if it exists, or $200 in this example. Now, the manufacturer gets rebated back 25% of $600 that was rebated back to the manufacturer, or $150 given back to the dealer. The dealer then gets an additional 50% of the $150 that was sent back to the ad association, or $100 in this example. So the total co-op reimbursement to the dealer on this $40,000 vehicle is $250. Now, let me just tell you that when I meet with dealers, I don't even have a co-op conversation. And the reason is because they get it, they know how much they get and how much they have to work with. So having a co-op conversation with a dealer really is somewhat irrelevant in creating a creative strategy or position for them. Now, in this particular example, on this $40,000 vehicle, again, the cost to the dealer, $250 ultimately is rebated back to the dealer to offset their cost. The fact is that most dealers will spend 2 to 3 times, in some cases more, than their actual co-op reimbursement. And that's verified by the fact that in 2018, dealers spent on average $628 per new vehicle sold. That's the average for all size dealerships per National Auto Dealer Association. So if an average dealer on a $40,000 car is rebated back $250 and the average spends $628, it shows the dealers actually spend more than their co-op advertising dollars. So don't buy into the, geez, I'm sorry, I've already spent my co-op dollars, I've got no more money to work with. That's simply a ruse to get rid of you. Also, another stat that might help you out is that in 2018, the average dealer will spend in domestic stores a little over $244,000 annually, in an import store over $325,000 annually, in a luxury store almost $300,000 annually. So there's co-op dollars to be had, and even if the dealer has already committed those dollars, they still spend more money in advertising. Okay, you've done your homework about what's happening in the business, what's happening specifically in your local market, what's happening with the dealer's franchises, and you've made that appointment. So let's talk about a dozen auto questions you must ask in your conversation if you're going to buy credibility and get the right information which to create a perfect position or campaign for your dealer. The first thing you need to do prior to even having that appointment is to do some research. I think it's key that you go on the dealer's website and you read every tab that you can. Take a look at the About Us, the Why Buy From Us, family history. Are they promoting anything specifically that you could help them to promote? Take a look at their Facebook page. Is it fresh? How many fans or likes do they have? Is their site website mobilized, optimized? What's their Google page ranking? Are they above the fold? Are they doing paid advertising? And when you type a dealer's name in, you'll see if you find them in the various lead sources that are out there, like autotrader.com, cars.com, TrueCar, etc. So now you're there. Let's get into the conversation. The first question I ask is, how many cars are you selling per month? What's your average month been this year? Then I ask them to break that down between new versus used. A key question I ask up front is, so tell me about pump in versus pump out. Have you had more pump in or more pump out this year? Think of it like this. Pump in is bad for a dealer. That means the competitors selling the same makes and models are selling more vehicles in his backyard, his area of responsibility, than he's selling into their backyard. Pump out for a dealer is good. It means just the opposite. The dealer is selling cars outside of their area of responsibility, which they're still getting credit for. So pump in is bad, pump out is good. Ask what the ratio is between new and used. In most cases, a domestic dealership sells one new car to about one used cars. In imports, it's typically 2 or 3 new cars to one used car. That gives you a sense about campaigning. I also want to ask them, what's their best-selling vehicles? Are they more of a truck SUV store, or are they more of a car store? You want to lead with strength. You want to promote the vehicles that are selling, not the dead dogs that the market has said they're not interested in. I'll tell a dealer, if you want to sell more slow-moving models, then advertise or focus on your best-selling models, because a rising tide raises all boats. A big question to ask up front is, were you sales effective last year? Now, every dealer is assigned a very specific number of vehicles that they must sell or penetrate in their area of responsibility, which is the area or market specific that they're assigned to. It's very binary. They either hit it or they didn't hit it. If a dealer continues to be not sales effective, they start to get a lot of pressure from the manufacturer. And the manufacturer says 2 things to them. 1, you need to buy more vehicles from us to sell more vehicles, and 2, you need to spend more money advertising and marketing to promote more sales. So if a dealer is feeling pressure or pain from not being sales effective, that's a good thing for you. The next question is, how much are you doing per copy per vehicle? Now, copy is the combination of the gross profit from the front end and the back end. Now, the front end of a car deal is the gross profit made specifically on the car. So let's say a car sells for $41,000 and the dealer's cost is $40,000. That means the front end gross profit is $1,000. Now, they go into the finance and insurance office and they decide to buy an extended service warranty, and they buy some other protections for their vehicle. And let's say that gross profit from the finance office is $1,000. That's the back end gross profit. So the combination of the $1,000 on the car, the $1,000 in the finance and insurance office, or $2,000 in total, is what the dealer is doing per copy. What we find that most new car dealers around the country, regardless of market, are running somewhere in total gross profit per copy of $1,800 to $2,200 per car. Used vehicles, again, most areas of the country, around $2,400 to $3,000 per car. That helps you put together a compelling ROI slide, or return on investment, to justify what the dealer can expect in return for their ad dollars invested. Moving on. Are you buying third-party lead sources like cars.com, autotrader.com, TrueCar.com, Carfax.com? How many leads on average do each of those sources generate for you? What's your conversion rate? A conversion to a dealer is not how many vehicles they sell, but how many vehicles took next steps, or potentially customers, I should say, took next steps for either more information, for a test drive, for an appointment, somehow contact the dealership, ultimately leading to a sale. When you look at closing rates, the industry average is about 18 to 11% on internet leads. And ask the dealer, are you satisfied you're getting the quality of leads that you want from those third-party sources? If they have any question or doubt about those lead sources, which many dealers are beginning to express, there's dollars that you can shift over to your platforms. Now, I'll say to a dealer, think about this. NADA says a consumer will have at least 27 touch points before they reach out to the dealer for more information or go to the dealership. Think about that, 27 touch points. So I'll say to a dealer, you're spending $5,000 on Cars.com and $2,000 on TrueCar and $5,000 on Carfax and $1,000 on KBB, KellyBlueBook.com. Do you think the consumer only goes to one of those sites? That they're just going to go to Cars.com and hopefully find your VDP, or vehicle display page, your car, that they're interested in? No, they're going to go to all those sites. So why do you need to spend money on 4, 5, 6, 7 third-party lead sources? Pick out the 2, maybe 3 that you know are giving you high conversion rates and sales rates, and shift those dollars to more compelling platforms that I'd like to share with you when I come back and talk with you about a business plan or a strategy. Ask them how many leads come directly to their website. With a conversion rate, the sales rate, this should be at least 5 or 10% higher than third-party lead sources. And every dealer will tell you, as we saw in a brief clip previously, that leads that come directly to the dealer are much better, better qualified leads. Again, why? Because they picked you finally, Mr. and Ms. Dealer, to come and investigate your dealership. Next question is, well, so an internet lead comes in, how do you catch it? And how do you work with it to convert it to ultimately next steps, which ideally is an appointment and a show leading to a sale? Ask if they have a BDC, or Business Development Center, which of course is the place or people that are assigned to specifically catch and respond to internet leads and oftentimes to inbound sales calls. The other option most dealers take or have is the internet department. What's the difference? The difference is in the BDC, they work with, interact with the internet lead that comes in with the sales call, but they do not ultimately sell the car. If a dealer says, I have an internet department, ask the question, do they take the sale all the way? Meaning they engage with the consumer online, on the phone. Once the consumer comes in, they actually sell the vehicle. This is how you're held accountable. So you'll want to know how the dealer processes their leads. Rarely these days, but occasionally I find a dealer that says, well, I just print the leads off and put it on the sales tower. And when the guys have some free time, they pick it up and respond back to the consumer. Rare, but still happens. Find out how the dealership processes leads, and that can help you do a better job in terms of your accountability. Now, most dealers, the next question is what CRM tool do you use? That's the customer relationship management tool, much like in the TV business, a Wide Orbit Matrix, and some of the others that are out there. The dealer knows empirically where these leads come from, how many leads they catch, and again, the person that's processing those leads knows what the conversion rate is. Now, the actual CRM tool, whether it's a VIN Solutions, eDealer, it's really irrelevant. Just the fact that you asked that question lends to a lot of credibility. And when a dealer says, well, your digital platform, your TV platform is not working, ask, well, can we see your CRM report for last month and see where those leads came from? I also ask, how many floor ups do you get per month on the average? Another metric of your accountability. A floor up, of course, is somebody who actually comes to the lot, walks in the door, engages with a salesperson. This is also a success metric. What we find today, because most people kick tires online, and per NADA shop less than 2 brick and mortar stores, that closing ratios on the floor are very high. Quote unquote, in days gone by, a 20-25% closing ratio is common. In today's world, a closing ratio of 35, 40, even 50% is not uncommon, because people have made the decision that after doing their research to come and see you, Mr. and Ms. Dealer, to give them your first shot. And frankly, most dealers will tell you that all they get at the consumer is one shot. I also get into their social presence. I look at their Facebook page. How many fans do they have? Is it fresh content? Is it purely just a selling site, or do they mix it up with recipes and car maintenance tips? I'll say to the dealer, I see you have 1,451 fans and your content is fresh. What's your thoughts about social media and how do you work it? Who manages it? This may be an opportunity for you to get involved in helping them with their social media presence. Another question I'll ask, of course, is what will your manufacturer co-op for you on the different platforms in terms of your ad spend? Talk about what the requirements are. There are certain percents that they must spend in digital. How often do they have to submit in order to take advantage of the money? And you want to also know that your digital platform is also accountable and co-opable for most dealers, and share that with them. And of course, I think the big pitch here is to relate that you have a customized strategy for them. You know, one that the preferred vendor, that sort of a one-size-all brings to the market. I'll say, for example, do you think that your manufacturer-approved vendor is giving you a customized plan versus the other 5 Chevrolet dealerships in the market? The answer is no. I'll suggest that you're all basically running your cost up on AdWords because you're all buying the same AdWords from the manufacturer to Tier 2 to Tier 3. We can bring you back a customized strategy along with the power of television to influence consumer behavior, can help you sell more cars now. Another question, of course, is I go through all the traditional ad spends. What are you spending in the paper, radio, newspaper, billboards, direct mail, and find out where those dollars are and ask if they're effective. Ask how they track those things. Who's responsible for those metrics? Again, what am I doing in this process? I'm looking for dollars for them to shift over to what we have to offer. One of my favorite questions is, so who are your 2 biggest competitors and why? What do they do that you think may be better than you? What do you think that you may do better than them? Find out where they really believe they stand competitively in the market. Ask if there's any new competitors coming into the market, any buy-sell agreements happening. And quite frankly, when they give you 2 or 3 competitors, you've just picked up 2 or 3 more leads in which to go to. And one of the last questions I ask is, what do you think your biggest opportunity for growth is next year? New cars? Used cars? Where do you think that growth opportunity is? And then vet through or talk that conversation out. And then my last question is this. Mr. and Ms. Dealer, if you could guarantee your advertising would accomplish one thing, what would that be? And of course, 90% of the time the answer is, we'll sell more cars. But you know what? You don't sell cars, you create leads and opportunities. So I'll say, well, Mr. and Ms. Dealer, I can't sell a car on the floor for you, but I can drive more leads for that. So from my perspective, do you want more internet leads? Do you want more door swings? Do you want more traffic? What specifically are you looking for? Phone calls? What's most important to you? And they say, well, we'll get them any way we can take them. Then I'll say, great. Our job then is to drive more business through phone calls, internet leads, and the other channels you have available, such as chat, text messages, and of course, the other ways that a consumer can interact with a dealership. So, bottom line is this. Have an understanding of the business, have a basic understanding of the dealership locally, and ask these 12 poignant questions along with demographic questions and competitive questions and other questions that you think are relevant to creating a winning campaign. If you do this, you'll come back with a better campaign, be placed there more strategically than their competition, and win their business for the long haul. In this session, we're going to get into some very specific dealer opportunities that you can go prospect, and with some tools that can really open their eyes as to the power of TV and digital, or the domination combination of tradigital advertising. This is an absolute phenomenal video that you can play not only for your auto dealers, but really pretty much any vertical that seems to be heavily digitally weighted about the power of television. This is Jay Baer, New York Times best-selling author, big digital guru, working with some of the biggest brands on the planet, about his thoughts on search engine marketing. Let's listen to Jay.
Hey, it's Jay Baer, founder of Convince and Convert, New York Times best-selling author and digital strategy consultant to some of the world's largest brands. People talk all the time about search and local search and how important it is, and it is important. But here's a key truth. Google, no search engine, can create demand. It can only fulfill demand that already exists. Here's what nobody has ever done in history. Nobody ever goes to Google and says, I don't know, just surprise me. People search for things that they're already interested in. So yes, digital is important, search is important, but traditional is equally, if not more important, because something has to create the demand that people search for.
I think what Jay says is powerful. Think about that. No search engine creates demand. I love the saying, no one ever has sat down in front of Google and says, hey, surprise me today. Demand has to be created. And specifically his line of is yes, traditional is important, maybe even more important than digital, is a phenomenal clip to play for really about any advertiser that's caught up in, well, gosh, it's all digital these days. Another slide that my colleagues and myself like to utilize with auto dealers is this. We put up these various logos of these 100% non-brick and mortar companies that dealers are spending millions with on a nationwide basis. Cars.com, Carfax, Dealer Rater, Car Gurus, TrueCar, Kelley Blue Book, and on and on and on. And I'll ask the question, so Mr. and Ms. Dealer, you're spending all this money on these third-party lead sources, but yet we see them advertised on television. We've all seen ads for Auto Trader, Cars.com, Carfax, Dealer Rater, etc. So isn't it ironic that these 100% non-brick and mortar third-party lead providers that you spend thousands, tens of thousands with, know the power of television in which to drive opportunity? And then I'll have their logo come into the picture and say, so why do we not make sure that Krieger Ford takes advantage of the millions of dollars these companies have done in advertising to say that the power of television drives into their digital footprint? I want to share this video, which is also powerful for you to play with your dealers. This is Chris Herman. He's the CEO and founder of Herman Advertising, a very auto-specific ad firm that deals with over 90 different dealers and dealer groups across the country. We had the pleasure of meeting Chris Herman at one of the many symposiums that Tom Ray and I attend every year. And we asked Chris if we could do a follow-up interview with him and talk about his thoughts again on traditional advertising and digital advertising. Here's a clip about 1.5 minutes long that, again, I think is powerful you to play for your dealers. Here's Chris Herman.
The one thing that digital marketing has done has provided us the opportunity to reach customers in a very one-on-one and specific way and be able to measure the results from that. But in many ways with digital marketing, we are placing the dealership in the hands of the consumer. And what I mean by that is this. By focusing a large portion of dealerships' budgets on digital marketing, we are giving the consumer the power to decide when they search for the dealership, how they search for the dealership, how they acquire information, and they contact the dealership when they're ready. One of the biggest mistakes that we can make in the retail automotive field is to move too far away from stimulating the marketplace. And anytime we've run into a problem as an agency in terms of driving results for a dealership, 9 times out of 10, it has come when we have gotten a little bit too digital and we have taken our eye off the ball of stimulating the marketplace. If you go back 20, 25 years ago, what was effective retail automotive advertising and marketing? It was large, high frequency, high reach schedules on radio or TV or cable, pounding a message that motivated the marketplace to act. By removing that from the marketplace in the modern digital landscape and placing the process in the hands of the consumer on the digital side, in many cases we have stopped stimulating the marketplace. We have stopped creating a must-shop scenario, and that is a big mistake. So to your audience, the importance of traditional messaging is still important today as it was 20, 25 years ago. We have to continue to stimulate the marketplace with a message, either why buy, where to buy, what to buy. That's up to you to decide. But we have to stimulate the marketplace to drive them into this digital landscape, and that balance is very important now more than ever. So to bring that back to attribution, we can spend hours and hours and hours and hours studying attribution. But don't forget that you still have to stimulate your marketplace to get that consumer into your digital footprint and then bring them into your dealership.
I love what Chris Herman says, that, traditional is just as important, maybe more important, as Jay Baer said, as it was 20, 25 years ago. That you have to stimulate the market to say where to buy, why to buy, what to buy, to drive those people into the dealership's digital footprint. And as he said, anytime they've had trouble getting results for a dealer, it's because they became too digital. And they get back to adding traditional again to the mix. I just think those two pieces of video you can share with your clients, Chris Herman specifically with auto dealers, and it really creates these aha moments as I've shared them to say, yeah, it makes sense. Because if all you're doing is digital as a dealer, you're basically just sitting back, twiddling your thumbs, hoping somebody finds you out there, in this crumb amongst a million minnows swimming around the digital world, hoping somebody finds the bait. Again, very powerful stuff to utilize with your dealer clients. Oftentimes I hear from dealers, well, gosh, I really can't track my TV results, so I don't know that it's working. Let me share with you what Steve Shane, a top 20 Kia dealer in Cleveland, Ohio, the Cleveland area, has to say about that.
We can watch our internet spike come as our TV flights start running. If somebody goes on and Googles Kia of Bedford, something told them to go on and type in Kia Bedford in the search terms. So if I look at our top search terms, our actual dealership name is being typed in 78% of the time, which tells me that traditional media is driving that customer, not an AdWord or not anything that they're searching. Now, if somebody was searching for Kia dealers in Cleveland or Kia dealers Ohio, that would be somebody that's just looking for obviously the closest dealer, and it has nothing to do with my traditional. But when people are typing our actual name in, 78% of the time is the referrer, that tells me traditional is driving them.
So as Steve Shane says, when his television flights are running, he sees his internet lead spike. He also says that he looks at his specific dealership name as the referral search term organically, and it continues to climb. Steve took almost $20,000 out of their paid AdWord budget and pushed it over to television based on the data he was able to accumulate through his CRM tool about the TV flights running in conjunction with internet spikes, and of course his organic search for the dealership name climbing up to 78%. Let's talk about what I think is probably the best opportunity in 2019, and that is used cars. Both used cars for new car dealers and independent used car dealers. Clearly, with this continued tsunami of off-lease vehicles coming back in the market, peaking throughout 2019, lease returns will power used sales. A couple of stats. NADA forecasts that new car dealerships will retail 16.1 million vehicles in 2019 versus 15.2 million used cars retailed in 2018. The total retail used vehicle market will exceed 40 million, the rest of it being made up primarily by private party sales. Great quote by Patrick Manzi, a senior economist for NADA. The influx of off-lease vehicles returning to dealerships is likely to put pressure on new vehicle sales. However, the mix of these late model vehicles will favor light trucks more than in past years and should be more in line with present consumer demand. So if trucks and SUVs exceeded for this year 70.4% of the mix, that's what the majority of the off-lease vehicles coming back into the market are trucks and SUVs, thus competing again with the ever-climbing pricing of new car vehicles. What you need to talk to your new car dealers about is their certified pre-owned programs, or CPO programs, from the manufacturer. It's sponsored by the manufacturer. Every make and model has a CPO program available for it. So go into your dealers and talk about what their plans are to market CPO vehicles this coming year. Now, what's the advantages of a CPO program? For the consumer, the vehicle goes through an exhaustive reconditioning list, sometimes over 100 or more safety point checks. The vehicle then needs to be brought up to those specifications as laid out by the manufacturer for it to qualify for the CPO program. Oftentimes, low interest rates are offered for a CPO certified vehicle, and Also, there is an extended warranty typically and sometimes prepaid maintenance. So a consumer can save somewhere between 30 and 50% from what a new vehicle costs for the same 2 or 3 or 4-year-old model with very often low miles that's come off a lease. Now, this program is costly to the dealership. The average CPO program will cost a dealer somewhere between $1,000 to as much as $3,000 or $4,000 for luxury vehicles. Effectively, what they're doing is spending the money for more reconditioning work and, frankly, buying an extended service contract through the manufacturer to extend the warranty and potentially prepaid maintenance. Now, some dealers elect to not do very many factory-sponsored CPO or certified pre-owned vehicles, but they do create often their own in-house version of a CPO certified pre-owned vehicle. For example, it might be the Drive Hubler pre-owned vehicle program, the Fuse certified pre-owned program. What the dealership does, it still puts the car through vigorous reconditioning, but then really hold the money or accrue the money versus sending it to the manufacturer for any repairs under whatever their designated in-house dealership CPO program is. We've seen many examples where dealerships have turned in former Hummer franchise showrooms and other Suzuki vehicle showrooms that have gone away from the country, where they've turned them into their certified pre-owned centers, as Hubler did, for example, in the picture you just saw in Greenwood, Indiana. So get out there and talk to your new car dealers about either one, their CPO manufacturer-sponsored pre-owned program, or two, their dealership in-house sponsored CPO program. Great place for them to put some marketing dollars behind. They can control their inventory versus very often not controlling what they can get in terms of the hot models from the new car manufacturer. Here's a category that I'm really excited about, and that is the independent used car dealerships out there. Here's one of many reasons why they're such a great category to prospect. Number one, very often you can talk directly to the owner. Typically, if they're not sitting in the showroom, they're one office off the showroom, and you can very often get to them directly. They also consistently spend a lot of money on advertising, in some cases more than new car dealers. I can remember an example being in Orlando, working with 4 or 5 dealers that week, and I think the people at the station were shocked when they realized that some of these independent used car dealers were spending $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a month, in some cases twice what their new car dealers were spending. They often look for help with digital platforms. They're all doing something. Very often it's just third-party leads, Cars.com, AutoTrader, etc. They don't have the support from the vendors and the intel and information that your new car dealers get on digital advertising, nor do they have preferred digital vendors. So you can be that digital vendor. When I find a used car dealer that is working with digital with another vendor, that vendor is usually radio.com, cable.com, newspaper.com. So here's a chance for you to get in the door and help them with digital. They rarely have an agency, so you have nobody in between you and the decision maker. You can also own a unique position, high-line luxury for less, the land of the under 12 grand car. You know, fog a mirror, everyone drives away here at Norris Motors. And there's no factory mandates. They're not dictated the number of used vehicles or type of used vehicles that they need to sell. So again, a great opportunity. And oh, by the way, the picture that you saw a moment ago is not what your typical used car lot looks like. They look more like this today. High-end, very clean, very professional. So I often get asked the question, what makes an independent used car dealer a prospect? Is it the fact that they have an awesomely paved lot that's well lit with banners flying between the light poles? Should I stay away from the ones that have a gravel lot with kind of a shabby looking building? The answer is it's none of that. How do you tell if an independent used car dealer is a good prospect? Is this: how many cars do they stock in inventory? And you can find that easily on their websites. So here's sort of a rule of thumb. If they stock 50 or more cars in stock, every independent used car dealer sells half of those vehicles a month. So let's take the low end. A dealership that stocks 50 vehicles is selling, give or take, about 25 cars per month. What we find is at $2,500 gross profit times 25 units sold is $62,500 in gross profit for a used car dealer selling about 25 cars. Now, most independent used car dealers will spend between 10 and 12% of their gross profit on advertising. So this dealer is potentially spending between $600 to $7,500 per month. Would you take that as an advertising prospect? I think that you would. And sometimes many spend more. So 100 cars in stock means 50 sold, means over $130,000 in gross profit. That could be a $10,000 spender for you. So go out and look for those independent used car dealers. I want to play just a couple commercial examples of what a good creative position could be. Here's some folks that I worked with down in Norfolk, Virginia. Let me play the spot for you.
Why buy new? Buy off lease for less. CTC saves you up to 50% off retail prices.
CTC's been really good to us, so we just kept coming back.
Each of these pre-owned vehicles has passed CTC's rigorous 172-point inspection, and many are still under warranty.
All the off-lease vehicles from CTC are very dependable. I never have any callbacks. Everything works out the first time.
CTC, cars, trucks, and commercial vehicles. South Military Highway in Virginia Beach or at buyoffleaseforless.com.
Why buy new? Buy off lease for less.
What a great URL. Buy off lease for less. How cool is that? Here's another one in the Orlando market I had the pleasure of working with, Central Florida Sales and Leasing. And when I looked at their website before I met them and did my research, I saw that they had over 70% of their inventory, over 200 vehicles almost, that were in and around $12,000 or less. So we made them the land of the under 12 grand car. Here's their spot that was very successful.
Tammy, we got some great news to report from Central Florida Sales and Leasing.
We sure do, Bob.
If you need a good car and don't have a lot of dough, then here's a dealer you need to know. Central Florida Sales and Leasing is the land of the under 12 grand car. Central Florida Sales and Leasing has over 200 pre-owned vehicles, mostly priced from $7,000 to $12,000, all with a 115-point safety check and ready to roll. You know you're getting a good car at a great value. Go online and see how you'll drive away for a lot less at Central Florida Sales and Leasing. Buy where the dealers buy. Central Florida Sales and Leasing, the land of the under 12 grand car.
What's funny is when I went back a year later just to talk with Bob and his crew, as I pulled in the lot, there was a semi-trailer parked in the back lot with a huge banner like a billboard painted across, the land of the under 12 grand car. Now, lastly, I thought I'd share this video with you because you need to be prepared for about every independent used car prospect you meet. Let me share this with you from TDM Auto Sales in North Carolina. It's a real spot.
Hello, friend. My name is Rudy. I used to be gynecology in Cuba. Now I sell car here in America in TDM Auto Sales. TDM Auto Sales. What do we have? We have car. We have motorbike. We have a guide dog, but somebody stole it. It's not there. I am a Cuban gynecologist and American auto salesman. I want to liberate this Chevy Impala from the car lot. I need to freemize this Ford Explorer. We are on official inspection station. Do you have bad credit? Start the revolution. People with bad credit driving everywhere. This is our address. Our phone number. Pre-qualified in this website.
Another category that I'm really excited about this year is new car dealers outside the metro, those dealers that are on the fringe of your DMA. A really cool stat from Google in their 2018 white paper, auto white paper, was this. The average consumer will drive 32 miles to make a car purchase. Think about that. Now, many of those outside the metro, those fringe DMA dealers are going to tell your AEs, well, gosh, you know, it's a waste of money. No one's going to drive out here. I'd just be wasting my dollars. Let's listen to what Brad Sider had to say about working with dealers outside of the metro.
I love going outside of the city and visiting with dealers that think that they're too far out to use television because in their mind it's wasteful. So and every AE that's gone out on a call knows this. If you talk to a dealer that is only in one small part of the DMA, they're usually buying zone cable or they're doing nothing but digital or targeted direct mail. And we go to those dealers and we let them know that we can help you grow your business. And this is the way that you look at television. You don't look at it as waste. You look at it as the ability to talk to 100% of my potential customers. Even in my one area where I'm at, if I think I'm just going to pull from just this zip code or just these 2 zip codes, if all I'm buying is zone cable, then I'm only having the opportunity to talk to a fraction of my potential customers. What I want that dealer to do is recognize that I can talk to 100% of my potential customers. And the way to do that is through broadcast TV. And don't worry about the spillover into the rest of the DMA, because your consumer works in other parts of the DMA. They have friends and family who live in other parts of the DMA that will see that advertising, and they can influence that consumer. Or you as a dealer, you can pull from consumers in other parts of the DMA. Research shows that they will drive for a deal. So if you have the best deal, if you have that 0% financing going on or that $199 lease, and you have the inventory available, the color, the make, the model that consumer wants, they will drive to your dealership to see it. But they'll never know about you. They'll never hear about you if you're not on broadcast TV. If all that dealer is doing is targeted direct mail and zone cable, the only people they're talking to is a very small fraction of their potential customers in that one little area of the city.
So Brad says it's not a waste of money. It's a chance to talk to 100% of your consumers. Not everybody who is an influencer or even works or lives necessarily inside your specific area. So there's a couple things that you really need to know to talk to your outside the metro, your fringe dealer DMA. Number one, what is their AOR or PMA? AOR is Area of Responsibility or Primary Marketing Area. That's where a dealer again is assigned a specific area in which they must sell a specific number of vehicles into in a given year, or they're not sales effective. So ask that question again. Are they sales effective? Are they meeting the manufacturer's goals? If not, to repeat myself, the pressure the manufacturer puts on them is buy more vehicles to sell more vehicles from us and spend more dollars in advertising to promote those vehicles. Talk again with your dealer on the outside the metro fringe DMA about pump in and pump out. Remember, pump in is bad. That means dealers outside their area of responsibility are selling more vehicles in their backyard than in pump out they're selling outside of it. And oftentimes I'll hear from an outside the metro dealer say, well, you know what, I've only got 50 F-150 Fords. The guy down by town or by the city has 250. I'll say, well, Mr. and Ms. Dealer, we know that getting inventory allocation is all based on turn and earn. So, in other words, when you turn vehicles, you sell them, you earn a vehicle back. If we can help you sell more F-150s, both in your area of responsibility and pumping out more of those, you'll earn more F-150s, won't you? The answer is yes, they will. Then great. Let's talk about a strategic campaign that we can help you sell more F-150s in your backyard and outside in a pump-out basis to your competitors' backyards. So what should your plan be with those dealers outside the metro, again, those fringe DMA dealers? Let's talk about it. Every campaign should drive to the dealer's website always. As we've heard from dealers, you know, the leads that go directly to the dealer's website are better, more qualified leads. Give the consumer some mystery, something compelling to drive them to the dealer's website. Talk about the amazing deals for our online customers. We have no fees, huge trade-in allowances because we need your vehicle. Whatever you're promoting should be prominently displayed on their website. So often I see a dealer that's promoting on their website a $199 lease, but in their advertising, wherever it may be, it says nothing about that. Or vice versa, they're promoting it out in the market, and when you go to their website, nowhere can I find the $199 lease deal. You also want to measure conversions by the different channels dealers do. It's no longer about how many clicks that you get them. It's really about how many text messages are they getting, how many chat sessions are you driving, how many emails, how many phone calls, online trade appraisals and credit applications. These are how dealers are measuring conversions today, not just by how many click-throughs they got from their digital campaigns, whether it's their preferred vendors or yours. So have the conversation about establishing a baseline for those conversion channels. Again, I'll run through them: text messages, chat sessions, emails, phone calls, online trade appraisals, and credit applications. Don't let your dealer get caught up on what we call the myth of the last click. Google will always give themselves credit for finding the customer. Their program, their algorithm defaults to saying, hey, we got you that lead. When in reality, as NADA says, a consumer has 27 different touch points before they actually come to the dealership for a conversion or more information and ultimately a sale. Make sure you're measuring again all the other conversion channels we talked about, and have the conversation about not getting caught up on the myth of the last click. Look, we're all consumers here, and we deal in convergent media, meaning that we're influenced by a variety of media sources before we finally make the last step to get more information. And that's usually we quote unquote Google it. But it doesn't mean that's what influences the decision. Your powerful platforms of your television products, and combined with your digital if appropriate, are what's going to drive the consumer to the dealer's website. Let's hear what dealer Dale Early, owner of Hyundai of Silsbee outside the Houston area, has to say about pumping out of his market.
What we really tried to achieve, to be honest about it, is dominance within a 50-mile radius of our location, which pretty much encompasses, most of the towns that are around us. Obviously, gets us into Beaumont and Port Arthur. We try to make sure that within a 50-mile radius, yes, we do sell folks, out of the Houston market, and most times when that does happen is because somebody's been online and they saw a particular piece of inventory that they couldn't find somewhere else.
So as Dale says, he tries to control an area 50 miles outside of his dealership. And remember, as Google said in their white paper, the average consumer will drive 32 miles for a car dealer. Smart guy. Here's a few campaign ideas you can use for your dealers outside the metro, or those that are fringe DMA dealers. Number one, you'll speak directly to the owner or general manager. No back and forth when you come here, no hassle, no haggle. We guarantee you the car you call on today will be here when you get here. If we can't come to an agreement, we'll give you $50 worth of free gas for making the trip out to see us. Our overhead is always lower than those big city dealerships, so we can sell for less, always. Or, we need trades. We pay top dollar for your trade-in because we don't buy our cars from those expensive auction houses like the big city dealers. So just a couple of thoughts that you can weave into campaigns for your outside the metro dealers. Let me share with you a very effective spot that we've repeated in many markets, and we call it What's Your Number? This one in particular for Marine Chevrolet, which is about 95 miles outside the Greenville, North Carolina area, has been actually a winner for them, and we've used this with many dealers. So let's play the video for you and I'll comment.
74. 46.
What do these people have in common?
87.
They all have a number.
63.
The number of miles they're willing to go for the largest selection and best prices on new Chevys and Cadillacs.
So, what's your number? Make the drive for the largest selection and best prices east of 95.
Marine Chevrolet, what's your number?
Don't you love it? The football being tossed with a number on it draws the potential consumer's attention in. They're going to wait for the ride to see what this all means. And then it's how many miles would you drive for the best selection and best prices on Chevrolets and Cadillacs. I know that they went to beach balls at one point, and also went to basketballs during basketball season. So a great way that you can draw people's attention by tossing a ball from consumer to consumer. That completes today's session. I hope you took great notes and are already formulating a plan to make more auto dollars in 2019. So drop the mouse, grab your keys, and take it to the streets. We appreciate your partnership, and from all of us at Jim Doyle Associates, thank you and great selling.